against us, we have to step up our procedures to make sure that we protect ourselves, because we don't even know what the right wing can think of next. We never would have thought that they could have thought this up, but they did.
How many different places did they go in ACORN? Also, by the way, how many employees do you have? How many times were they turned away? How many times were they, well, given advice like they were here, that captured on tape?
So from what we can determine, they visited almost 24 offices, and 2/3 of them, you know, now once we began to see this, because people didn't really think much of it, when we polled everybody, we knew in over 12 offices, they were summarily told to leave. I might add that these folks really were very aggressive and refused to leave in several instances, in at least 3 or 4 offices, and that's why people said, we're going to call the police, because they just were very aggressive and very pushy. We have almost 700 employees, so when they're able to show maybe 5 or 6, less than 1% of our employees there, I would like to know any corporation that has 700 employees, if they could come and help us figure out how we keep 700 employees absolutely perfect all the time. I don't know, but I certainly, under my watch, will make sure that our procedures are reviewed and that we do tighten this up in our intake processes. And communication, as Juan pointed out, is more effective and better.
Bertha Lewis, we're going to come back to you. We just have to break. National CEO of ACORN joining us from Washington, D.C. We'll also hear from former President Jimmy Carter and Robert Gibbs, the White House spokesperson. Stay with us.
The first time that we sang this song together at a demonstration was in 1963 for Martin Luther King. Let's remember him for just a moment and sing this song together. How many roads must a man walk down before they call him a man?
Blowing in the Wind, Peter, Paul, and Mary on April 24th, 1971, a peace march in Washington, D.C. against the war in Vietnam. Mary Travers died last night at her home in Connecticut. She died of leukemia. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. We're talking about the controversy around ACORN, and we're joined by Bertha Lewis, the national CEO of ACORN. We wanted to play for you a clip of Jimmy Carter on the issue of race. The former president recently said, speaking to NBC News, he weighed in on the recent right-wing protests against President Obama.
An overwhelming portion of the intensely demonstrated animosity toward President Barack Obama is based on the fact that he is a black man, that he's African American. I live in the South, and I've seen the South come a long way, and I've seen the rest of the country that shared this South's attitude toward minority groups at that time, particularly African Americans. That racism inclination still exists. And I think it's bubbled up to the surface because of a belief among many white people, not just in the South but around the country, that African Americans are not qualified to lead this great country. It's an abominable circumstance and grieves me and concerns me very deeply.
Former President Jimmy Carter speaking on NBC News. White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs was asked about Carter's comments at a news conference on Wednesday.
The president does not believe that the criticism comes based on the color of his skin. We understand that people have disagreements with some of the decisions that we've made and some of the extraordinary actions that had to be undertaken by both this administration and previous administrations to stabilize our financial system, to ensure viability of our domestic auto industry. I don't think that, like I said, the president does not believe that it's based on the color of his skin.
Robert Gibbs and former President Jimmy Carter, the issue of race is getting very hot these days on a number of issues, going right back to what happened with Harvard professor Skip Gates and the summit at the White House, if you could call it that. Bertha Lewis, you started when this originally was raised by saying this was a right-wing attack on ACORN. Yet the video came out, and you had some of your biggest supporters in Congress actually voting against ACORN, saying you shouldn't get funding because they were appalled by what they saw. How do you put these two together?
Well, first of all, we are suffering from a modern-day type of McCarthyism. You know, have you now or have you ever been associated with ACORN? This has been repeated in the right-wing Republican echo chamber that somehow or another we are to be discredited. We are the largest membership-based community organization of low and moderate income people of color, black and brown folks in this country. We have been around for 40 years. We've saved thousands of homes. We've helped raise the wages of tens of thousands and not hundreds of thousands of people. And also, we have been able to make sure that millions of disenfranchised black and brown folks in this country actually vote, and they are actually counted. So for us, we know that there's a race element to trying to stop us. I mean, look at what's happened with Van Jones and Eric Holder and Judge Sotomayor. We know that we have been used as a surrogate to attack President Obama. The teabaggers have had signs with ACORN at teabag parties, and we never even were around or there. And it's not going to stop. We understand that. And our work is not going to stop. So the relative 10% of our entire funding that would come through the government, sure, we are going to fight back against this because we know that this is an unfair attack, and it's been going on from the Republican side and the right-wing side. However, our core work will never stop. And we know that being the largest organization of black and brown folks, people of color in this country, we know that we are